Good afternoon. Welcome to Cracker's Crazy Living. It is Wednesday, August 7th. Yes, it's August 7th. I'm losing track of days. If you're new, welcome to my kitchen. If you've been with me for a while, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a semi-homemade chicken pot pie. That's what I'm going to be making for dinner. So we're going to start with making the crust. And yes, I am making my own homemade pie crust for this. Because I don't have a store-bought one and I'm not going to the store to get one. So I just thought that I would make my crust. So it's 3 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. I just thought about making this less than an hour ago, so my recipe for my crust calls for frozen Crisco, and I do not have frozen Crisco because I did not freeze it ahead of time. So it's 3 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, I'm just using a regular tablespoon. Didn't feel like looking for my other tablespoons. A teaspoon of salt. Looks like about a teaspoon. If you wanted to make this pie crust a little bit savory, you could add, I would imagine you could add pepper to it if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. 1/3 cup of Crisco, either very cold or frozen, which I did not do. So I'm just going to use the regular, I have a 1/4 cup here, and I'll just do a heaping 1/4 cup. I'm also using butter flavored Crisco just to give it some added flavor. All right, butter flavored Crisco in there. And then 1½ sticks of cold butter. I make my pie crust in a food processor. This recipe comes from Ina Garten, and this is how she does it. This is how I can ensure I have a nice flaky pie crust, because I tend to overhandle pie dough when I do it homemade. I tend to overdo it quite a bit. So I'm just cutting the butter into pieces so it'd be easier for my machine to grind it up. Sometimes I cut it into small cubes. This times I'm just doing it in chunks. So I need 1½ sticks. One stick was salted, one was unsalted. I always generally use salted butter when I make anything. However, when I bought my butter at Costco the first time I went there, I picked up the wrong one. Okay. 3 cups of flour, butter, sugar, salt, Crisco, 1/2 cup of ice water. And if you don't have refrigerated water, then you make homemade ice water, which is, I take a measuring cup, I put ice in it, put water in it. I'll let this get good and cold for a minute while I put on the lid to my food processor. I gotta find the other piece to it. There is another piece to this food processor that you have to put on there. And if you don't put it on there, it won't work. I guess it's a safety mechanism. So I'm going to go ahead and pulse this. Looking for is you're looking for your crust to be like coarse sand. There's little bits of butter in there. That looks good. My ice water should be good and cold, so I'm going to measure in a different cup. Half a cup of ice water. Yep, just a smidge more. That should be all right. You put the lid on. You put this on low, and then you add your water. When your dough balls up into a big ball, it's done. It's done. Done. Perfect. This is the easiest pie dough recipe in the world, and I like it because, like I said in the past, I have tended to overhandle it. And you cannot overhandle your pie crust, because if you do that, you lose all the tenderness in your crust. You want a nice, flaky, tender crust. And you won't get that if you overhandle your pie dough. All right, so now I've got my rolling thing here, my cutting board that I use for rolling my pie crust, and get rid of my ice water. Take out, I'll do this, put this away. I have everything pretty well organized now in my kitchen, so everything has a spot. And I love that because I was so unorganized. I couldn't deal with it. Now I got another piece of furniture there in my kitchen that houses my mixers. I don't know what that is, a flake of something. Houses my mixers. And my baking tools, a lot of my baking stuff. All right, a little bit of flour on the board. Dump out my pie dough. Comes out in one big clump. This pie dough recipe makes 2 pie crusts. So if you make it and you don't need 2 pie crusts, you can, of course, make one ahead of time and freeze it if you want to. Now, this recipe does say to chill this pie dough for about a half an hour. I don't have time for that, so I am skipping that step. I need some more flour. Going to skip that step. I could actually cut this in half instead of trying to roll out this huge piece of dough. I am going to make this very soft dough. It's lovely. I really like this dough. I get my rolling pin. Gonna roll out my dough. It rolls like a dream. It really does. Don't have to put a lot of effort when when you have not refrigerated this dough. It rolls very lovely. Of course, when you refrigerate it, it's going to get hard and it's going to be a little bit harder to roll. But there's nothing wrong with doing it this way either, except for that it is just fragile. It's a very fragile dough. So now I have this round baking dish that I'm going to be putting my chicken pot pie in. So I'm going to roll my pie crust on itself over my pin, and then I'm going to roll it out into my pan, my dish, and then very gently going to drop the dough down in the dish. You don't want to push it because you don't want to stretch your dough. You're going to just want to very gently press it, drop it into the dish, because you do not want this dough, you don't want your dough to stretch out too bad. If it stretches, if you force it down into the dish, you're going to stretch it more than you want to, and it'll shrink up on you pretty bad. So I just stole a little bit of dough from my other pile here, and I'm pushing it onto this dough so it makes enough of an edge so I can make a nice crust around the edge, a nice fluted crust around the edge here, because when I pushed that down, I dropped that down in there, it was just a little bit short. All right, now I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to get a bowl, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to make my filling. One can of cream of chicken so far. I might need two, but we're going to start with one. One jar to start with of home canned chicken thighs and or chicken breasts. I'm pulling it out, but I might not use both jars. As you know, I've been doing a lot of canning. So I have 1 jar of herbed carrots and 1 jar of cubed cooked potatoes. I need to get a bowl to start. Here's a bowl. Here's my bowl. To start mixing all of this stuff together. So I'm going to start with my can of chicken soup. And like I said, I might need both 2 cans. Okay. Man, that is a tight seal. One good thing on my canned stuff, I got a good seal. It's not grabbing, just that seal. There it goes. That was a tight seal, which is what you want when you have home canned stuff. All right, so I'm just going to get a knife, small paring knife or something, and I'm just going to take these carrots. I made these were baby carrots. I'm just going to slice them. They're already cooked. Everything pretty much going in this is all cooked. Except for, you know, cooking your crust, of course. This is a good way for me to use up my canned herbed carrots. They were very good, but they were really strong with the herb flavor. And I just didn't care for them, eating them like that. So I've been using them in my soups and stews. All right. Don't know if I'm going to use the whole jar. Might have to have that other can of chicken soup. I might as well just use these up. I'm not going to eat them any other way. Excuse me. Now, you can make this with any kind of canned vegetables that you have, if you want to use canned vegetables. Part of the reason why I did all my canning was because I enjoy being able just to pull something out of my pantry and make something quickly for dinner. And this is the perfect solution. Yeah, it's tight too. It's good though. Oh, wrong side. Tight seal. Same way with these carrots. These carrots are already pre-chunked, but I'm just going to chunk them, slice them a little bit more so they're a little bit better for the pot pie than the big chunks I have. I mean, they're okay. They're like this, but it's too big for a pot pie. So just cut them in half again. So they're just not too huge. When I canned these, I did not dice them super small. That piece is okay. These potatoes like this are excellent for soups and stews as well as home fries. You can just drain them and then fry them in some bacon fat or butter, combination of butter and oil. I don't know how many potatoes. I don't think I'm going to use this whole jar of potatoes. Okay. I'm not going to use them all. I'm just going to use, there's only like a quarter of a jar left. But I don't want to have too much potato in there. I have some frozen peas. So I'm going to just open my bag of frozen peas and probably just pour about a cup in there. Yeah, that looks about right. And then my chicken. I'm going to use the chicken thighs first. Now, when I did my canned chicken, I did not add extra salt. So this was unsalted chicken. I am going to save the juice. Put the juice in a different measuring cup because it's chicken. It's just chicken broth. It's pure chicken broth. And I might need to thin down my mixture here just a little bit. Might have to have some extra liquid. So just going to take the chicken and kind of just break it up a little bit. This was the first time I've ever done homemade canned chicken. And it worked perfectly. Got a little bit of fat on them. I mean, just a smidge. Yeah, I think one jar is going to be enough of that. Let me move some of this stuff out of my way. I might need that lid. Let me put this jar of chicken back. I don't need that. I'm going to pour a little bit of this chicken broth, a little bit of fat in there. I'm going to add some seasonings to this. I did not just chop a raw onion, so I might get me some dried onion out. I don't know, I'll get my spoon in there. Let me get some dried onion. All right, just going to sprinkle in some dry onion, maybe a quarter of a cup. I'm going to add, I need another spoon, about a teaspoon or so of salt. Since I did not have salted chicken, I did the chicken plain on purpose. I didn't want to have it salty and then add stuff to it, so I just decided to leave it unsalted. A good pinch of pepper. I'm going to use some onion powder, about a tablespoon of onion powder. I'm going to do about the same of garlic powder. That might have been a heavy teaspoon. And then a nice sprinkling, maybe about a tablespoon or two of my complete seasoning. I love this complete seasoning. It does have MSG and preservatives in it, so if you cannot have preservatives, you can use whatever spices that you like. And I'm just going to sprinkle on just a little bit of Lawry's seasoned salt. I don't usually use Lawry's seasoned salt, but I got some for a different recipe, and I might as well use it, right? I'm going to stir this all up. I am going to get that second can of put the second can of chicken. I don't know, do we really need it? Yeah, I think I do. Extra can of cream of chicken. I just buy the cheap cans of cream of chicken from Dollar General. They're cheap. They taste just as good as Campbell's and half the price. And I try to keep cream of chicken, cream of celery, cream of mushroom, cream of broccoli, any of those I try to keep on hand so I can just make something quick and easy, even if I made this in the stove. So normally I would warm this up, cook it first, but everything is cooked but the peas. So I'm not going to preheat it. Trying to see if I can just throw those potatoes in there. Yeah, I'm just going to use them. Find my knife. There's a real big one, so I'll just cut him up a little bit. Cut that one in half. Cut that one in half. Because the potatoes are already cooked, they might fall apart a little bit more as this is cooking. All right, and that was just a little bit of extra juice in there from the potatoes. The potatoes and the carrots were salted. I have enough pepper in there. I like pepper in my stuff. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So that's what it looks like. Sometimes when you make this stuff, it doesn't look very appetizing. That's why I tried not to break the chicken down too much, because it'll literally fall apart. All right, now I'm gonna just get my dish. I don't need these. All right, get my dish. I'm going to pour my mixture in my dish. That was the perfect size dish for this. Perfect. All right, I'm going to set this aside and get my other crust rolled out. That was absolutely perfect. I could not have planned that any better. I could not have planned that any better. All right, so I'm just going to take my second crust here and roll it out into a circle as best as I can. Let me get this stuff out of my way. Give that a head start. I didn't flour my rolling pin this first time, but I ended up with a little bit of moisture from that stuff. All right, roll out my second crust. Water out of the way. All right, same method. I'm going to take my crust and I'm going to roll it around my rolling pin. And I'm going to pick it up, roll it out on top of my dish. That was a large overhang over there. Try to pull it, push it over, because there was, of course, a hole right there. Cut some excess off. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do your outer crust. I have seen some people just take the crust and push it against the dish so it seals the dish itself. So I'll give it a whirl. I'll give it a go. Just kind of like press those two edges together, but then push it down onto the dish. Push it on to the dish so it actually seals onto the dish. It doesn't really want to stick. If I really want to, I could take a piece of this and just cover up this little hole here, but I'm not going to, just because I don't feel like I really need to. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to get myself an egg. Last egg. I'm going to make a little bit of egg wash. Let's see if I can find my basting brush. Where did my pastry brush go? Keep losing my pastry brush. It's not laying here anywhere. Oh, there it is in the back. I lost my really, really good pastry brush. I don't know where it went. Now I'm just going to put, I might use, instead of water, a little bit of this chicken broth that I had out of that jar. Why not, right? It's flavor. All right, so mix this up. I'm going to baste it. All the way around with my egg wash. That looks really good. I hope it tastes good. I've never, honestly, this is my first homemade chicken pot pie. And I'm bringing you along for the ride. All right. Put my flour away. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper on top of my crust because it is a savory crust. So I'm going to sprinkle some pepper. Should have got my salt shaker out, my pepper shaker. That probably would have went on a little bit more even if I would have had my shaker. Should have doing it this way. A little bit of salt. And I can't even see where the salt is going. All right. And I'm going to cut a couple of slits in it. Maybe make a great big X in it. So your juices and stuff have somewhere to go. So, you know, you always want air vents in your pies. You don't ever want to just do this with no air vent. Now, if you wanted to get really fancy, instead of putting the top crust on, you could have cut out shapes, pretty shapes in the crust, and then just topped it with that. I did that once with an apple pie, and it was really good. All right. Wonder if I should turn this on 400 for the first 15 minutes. All right, so I'm going to put this in the oven, 400 degrees for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Then I will reduce the temperature to 375. I will reduce the temperature to 375 and continue to cook it until it's done, golden brown on the top. And then I will temp the inside to make sure it's 165. But like I said, everything in here is cooked already except for your peas. I could have actually put mushrooms in there. You could add whatever vegetables that you want to your chicken pot pie. So I'm just going to stick a pan underneath. I'm going to put this on a rack, and then I'm going to put a pan underneath of it on the next shelf. So if it boils over, it'll go on the pan and not inside my oven. So instead of putting this pan in there with nothing on it, I'm just going to put a piece of parchment paper on the pan. And then if anything drips on it, it'll drip on the parchment paper, and then I can just remove the pan with the parchment paper, throw that away. I don't want to put my pot pie on the tray with the parchment because I don't want it to drip on the parchment, because then if those juices and that liquid and stuff burns, it'll burn to my pan. Because I did that, I made that mistake when I was doing my pies. I was cooking my pies on the pan, and then when they boiled over, and I was using those cheap aluminum pans for the pies, those disposable ones, and so when it boiled over, it burnt to the bottom of my pie pan, and it was a mess trying to get that parchment off of there. It was a real mess. It was not a fun chore. So there you go. You're probably saying, well, that took more time than you thought it would. But because I'm showing you, I'm going slower. I didn't really have anything prepped up. But it took, what, 5 or so minutes, 6, 7 minutes to make up that filling. And then it was, how long was it for the pie crust? A couple of minutes to zap it and then take it out, roll it. Really didn't take that long. I don't know what time it was when I started. Whew, it's so hot here in Florida. I can't handle the heat sometimes. My poor husband's working in it. So if I really wanted to time myself, maybe a half an hour to throw that together and get it in the oven. Now it's going to cook. It might take 45 minutes to an hour to cook. So 400 degrees for the first 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'm going to turn it down and I'll check the crust. If the outside is starting to brown, I'll put a piece of foil around it. If not, I'm going to leave it in there. And then probably go another 45 minutes till it's done. That's what I'm guessing. I have no set recipe because I'm just winging this one. You know, I just made a pie crust, made a filling, stuck it in there, cook it till it's done. And you'll know when your crust is done, you'll know. And then your filling will be done too, because it's just soup. Everything is cooked. And you're just basically cooking the crust and heating the contents. Now, if you wanted to put cheese in there, that would have probably been really good. I wanted to just stick with the normal type of pot pie before I experiment putting cheese and stuff inside, but I bet that would really be good. I bet if you put a layer of shredded cheese on the bottom of the crust and then put your filling, maybe a little bit more cheese on top, that really might be good. I might have something there, but I didn't want to try it. I didn't want to make it. My husband likes pot pies, but he does not like chicken and biscuits. So like if I make a chicken casserole and then I put biscuits on top of it and bake it, he doesn't really care for that because he says the biscuits get too thick and heavy. And when you're working out in the heat and you come home, sometimes a real heavy meal is not good. You know, it's not, sometimes you just want something lighter. Pot pie is, not that it's light, but he doesn't have to have but a little bowl of it if that's what he chooses. So, and with that crust on there, that's an actual pastry crust. It's not a bread crust. So, yeah, it should be pretty good. Anyway, that's it for tonight. If you enjoy my page and you have not yet had a chance to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up. Share me with your friends. If you have any questions or comments on today's episode, let me know. I'll do my very best to answer your questions. I think that's it. I go back to work tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. We go back, we open the kitchen, we get things set up. Friday we have a big meeting, and then Monday we start school with students. I am in the cafeteria, in the kitchen. So getting ready to head back to school. So I'll still be coming on periodically, but probably not as often as I have been this summer. But anyway, have a great day. Have a good weekend coming up. And I'll see you next time on Crackers Crazy Living. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay healthy. Stay safe. Bye.